Welcome to the AI Ireland podcast, your window into the world of AI innovation on the island of Ireland. Join us as we explore how AI is harnessed to tackle both business and societal challenges, revealing the cutting-edge solutions emerging from this vibrant AI community. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates and insights in the world of AI. Hello, you're listening to the AI Ireland podcast. I'm very happy to welcome Nicole Baker, CEO of Biologit. Nicole, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nicole, tell us a little bit about Biologit and how did it get started?
So Biologit got started in around 2020, and I had an idea of by seeing the advances of AI on how AI was being used, like especially NLP and in large languages, text. And one of the tasks that I was doing when I was in the industry and also when I was in academia was to read lots of scientific articles. And reading lots of scientific articles, it takes a lot of time if you have to read like 10, 20, 30, 1,000. Within pharmacovigilance, there is a regulation that says that all pharma companies need to screen for adverse events in scientific literature. So they need to review and look for adverse events in the text of literature. And they do it on a very high scale, and most of it is done manually. So when I was looking at the uses of AI in unstructured text, and then when I thought about the problem that I had all my life from academia to pharma, I was like, I can use AI to read the text and find what I need in the text if I build the right models to do that. So that's how it started. And it's interesting to see, like I was in a couple of conferences this year, the end of the year, and very large companies are talking about what they're going to implement and what is in the roadmap for 2025. And we were doing this kind of stuff in 2019. That was our kind of starting goal. And the nice thing about looking at the literature is that the data is published. So the data is available for you to look at and to mine as such. I'm on the healthcare side of things, so my preference in the world would be to have access to patient records, for example, to get data directly from hospitals and all of that. But it becomes problematic with building AI on top of this kind of data because there's data privacy, obviously. So looking at the literature was one way to be able to build AI models for a healthcare problem within what was already published.
So your customers, our target customers, they're like in the pharma space, right?
They are in the pharma prospect, but pharma companies, they outsource most of the everyday work, and the monitoring of the literature is an everyday type of job. So that gets mostly outsourced to clinical research organizations or service providers that do it on behalf of pharma companies. So our customers are the pharma companies, but also the service providers that are putting people to do the reviews. So our platform, if you use it end to end, it can save a lot of time, over 70%, just on the workflow, because the AI is already reading the articles and finding the adverse events. So the people still do, like there's still people in the loop, people actually doing the reviews and not all of the reviews, but analyzing the reviews that AI is doing. And so, but it's mainly done by professionals that are doing as a service or within the pharma company.
So the underlying technology, kind of machine learning, machine translation, NLP, kind of a mixture of that?
It's a mixture of that. And we have there's three components to what we do. So the first one is the data. So data obviously is very important for any AI model. You need to have data to be able to put models or to create models on top of that. And when we started, we found it quite challenging because even though literature articles are published and they are readily available, they are not without copyright restraints. So within the big publishers, they wouldn't allow us to programmatically mine their data. So we started building our own database of open source, open access literature articles. And that was during COVID, which was an interesting time because during COVID, a lot of researchers and the industry in general and physicians and healthcare professionals, they became very aware of the problem of not having literature available to them because when they started, when the whole thing started and there was a lot of information going on, a lot of the articles were behind paywall. So they would have to pay like 50, 60, I don't know how much to even read the article. So that became more evident across the world that there was a problem and there was a barrier for people actually getting knowledge. So that led to a huge opening up of open access or open source of scientific data, and there was lots of different regulations and things within the EU for researchers to only publish in open access. But what we look at initially is just the title, abstract, and metadata. From there, we can go into the full text because that is another bigger problem because within the full text, there's graphs, pictures, there's a lot more things that is a lot more complex that you could use AI in lots of different ways. But our focus is on unstructured data, like reading text.
Yeah. So I was surprised when you were telling me about how you're not using generative AI, particularly when I think of what's happening in the models, what's happening in just adoption and the opportunity for it. But your reasons seem pretty solid.
Yeah, so the reason why we don't use Gen AI at the moment, but we actually are using in different aspects of the product in itself, but it's that you have, for what we're doing, pharmacovigilance is a highly regulated environment. So you need to have a compliance-ready type of model. Gen AI might not be a compliance-ready type of model because, and then the text is not always the same. So it's not always doing the same job because what it's reading is a completely different text every time that it's reading. So it's harder to validate a Gen AI model than it is to validate a machine learning or an NLP model where you can have a good F1 score and you know what you're getting out of it. And for pharma companies, it's very important that you can validate that model. Gen AI can be used for lots of other use cases. For example, you can use it for summarization. So once you find the articles that have evidence, that have adverse events, for example, for certain drugs, you can use Gen AI to do summarizations once it's validated. But the whole process to start using it, it might be a much longer process than you would start using it for anything else because you need to fully validate that the answers that you're getting, that the responses you're getting is in line with with the truth of the original piece, right?
Yeah, and there's also the costing of it too.
It's also the costing of it because we have now our database are 65 million sources, so it's a large database with scientific information from all over the globe. To mine that data directly on, it would cost, if we were to buy like tokens and things like that, it would cost a lot of money to try to be finding evidence within that big source. So machine learning, they're much more cost effective, and NLP to find what we need to from that data, and then you can put in Gen AI to add queries or to do additional prompts or summarizations. We're also using it for machine translation because our data is an international pool of scientific information. So there's articles in all languages: Chinese, Japanese, Russian, Arabic, you name it. There's articles in any possible language. So the use of machine translation is extremely important for us to make that data available for us to comprehend what it's saying, basically.
So your best use of AI is really, really special. And your finalist this year, your best use of AI for in healthcare. You're talking back 2019, 2020, where you're kind of doing a lot of these things, and then 2025, 2026, people are talking about this roadmap. Was there a point where kind of a couple of years in, you're thinking, guys, these guys are maybe we're too far ahead, or the adoption, was there an element where we're thinking, do we continue going with this? Because enterprise sales can average 1 year, 2 years.
Yes.
Like they are painful to get across the line.
You are so right. So we have been talking to companies, some of the companies we've been talking to, we've been talking to them for years. And the initial adoption was hard, but I think, and then there's the understanding of the industry, like what is AI, what can I do, what can I do? So I think the learning part was important. So between 2019, 2020, 22, 23, even, like, it was a learning phase for pharma companies to have an understanding of what they could use, what was actually real and what was just kind of talk or PowerPoint presentations and things that people were saying. So the adoption doesn't happen fast because there's a change management that industries need to go. So if they have a current process, for them to change that process might take a long time and involves a lot of people. So for large pharma, for example, you might have very large teams doing pharmacovigilance of like 200 people. And for them, and then you have all of the affiliates, because we are doing all the local languages as well. So you're talking about a lot of people in different locations doing jobs in slightly different ways. So as we take it all into one place, there is a lot of change that has to happen for that to happen in a compliant way.
When you're pitching to companies, are you kind of going on the time saving or the efficiency? Is it the regulation, the safety monitoring? How do you kind of position it with your USPs currently?
I think when we were just positioning as our AI can find adverse events faster and more reliable, because people might have a bad day. Like usually you do literature monitoring on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock, when you're really not in the mood to be reading hundreds of articles basically, and you might make a mistake. So the machine can also make a mistake, but you can validate that. You can have an expectation of how much it knows and how much it doesn't know. With a human, it's difficult. Like you might have people that are much better than other ones to finding to be able to read and comprehend and find information in text. So yeah, it is. It's yeah. So companies will be. The AI, it was harder at the beginning for them to understand that they could use it. But now the biggest problem that we have and we are solving is the fact that there's data all over the world that is not into a database. So today, the way they do it, they go into different websites or different local journals looking for evidence, but that is a very manual process. So somebody going into a website looking for information about the drug that they have and then doing it repetitively many times. And some companies are looking at like 2,000 sources that is not indexed in any place. So that's what that is the appeal of what we have, because we have a database which is a like you can have programmatic access to that database. So we bring all of this data into one place from the whole globe, the universe of literature, biomedical literature, not literature from anything. Other companies might be doing this for other reasons, like engineering. I don't know. We're doing for biomedical sciences. So as you build that, everything is sitting in one place. So you can put in on top of it any models that you want to mine data for, medicine, for medical devices, for cosmetics. So there's lots of new laws coming on board for us to monitor lots of other different products. So pharma is the first one because it's the most regulated in the industry. But we're also seeing for medical devices that we need to monitor the literature, anything that is published. There's for animal health as well. So we do have a couple of companies that are making products for animals. There's foods. So there's a need to be capturing what can be harmful, anything that can be harmful to people. We can do a search because the AI models that we have is looking for harm.
Yeah. So having that compliance is a real strength. And then once you get in with the customers and you're doing a good job, you've got that longevity. And then enterprise sales is based on, well, we're working with this company. You've got that trust, and then you can build it through. But it can be a long journey, and fair play to you for working on it.
But once they are with us, it's unlikely. So we haven't lost any clients, which is good. This year we have signed nearly 12 new contracts, so nearly one contract per month. That has been amazing. We started signing top 10 pharma this year as well. So we went from selling one or two licenses to friends and family in the pharma industry to selling hundreds of licenses, which has been the kind of the turning point of where we are now. So we are selling enterprise licenses, and we also have a collaboration and a relationship with most of the companies that are doing services for pharma. So that is another very good entry point, because pharma companies are looking for support from the service providers. And some of the service, like that surprised me that most of the service providers do not have the technology that we have. So we can sell to them and then they can do their services using our platform.
Well, I think it's a great example of you working in the industry, knowing the problem that needs to be solved because you've been a part of that journey, and then walking the halls and speaking to so many different people that you built up that trust, and then you can see there's a real USP for your product. So best of luck with the applications and the awards on Tuesday. And outside of that, really excited about what your journey is going to have in 2025 and 2026.
Thank you so much. And we are looking for female engineers. So the team is always growing. And yeah, so if you're interested in biologit, come and talk to us.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did you know that there's over 200 podcasts on the AI Ireland podcast which showcase the best and brightest of AI being applied on the island of Ireland? If you're interested to find out more about how AI is being used day to day on the island of Ireland and abroad, why don't you subscribe to this podcast, and within 15 to 20 minutes, you'll have the opportunity to reimagine how you're seeing AI being worked in business, finance, healthcare. Outside of that, I hope you subscribe and enjoy the episodes.